Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Diana Lammerts from DL Media in Germany. And that's a PR company. And we're going to have a little chat about business and lockdown and networking and all those sort of interesting things. So, how are you doing this afternoon, Diana? You okay?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Mike?
Yes, I'm awesome. I'm always awesome. I live in an awesome world made up of, I do everything I want to do on a daily basis that I enjoy doing. So, how can you not be awesome and enjoying life?
I know, right? And there's always so much to do. So, whenever I was on TikTok, which is very popular at the moment or for the past months, I heard people say I'm bored in the house bored, and I don't even know how, because there's so many things you can do. I've been so busy and so active, connecting people, networking, and it has been just amazing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I could come up with about enough to do for another five me's if I cloned me, like you know what I mean.
Right?
I wish I could find five me's and clone them, or I can't wait to that day where robots, where you can create a robot that does exactly what you do, so then I can send it to work all the time, so I can make myself busy doing other stuff.
I know, right? It's just, yeah. There's not enough time in the day, and I had the same problem. I was like up like 16, 18 hours working, connecting, and never a dull moment.
No, 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 not at all. So tell us a little bit about the lockdown, how that's been for you, and if you've done any particular changes or pivoting during that time.
Well, I do work remotely, so I was quite used to the whole situation. Nothing was really different for me because my clients are all over the world, and I converse with them through Zoom, Skype, email, and phone. So for me, nothing really has changed. Maybe the hours that I was working. Depending on the time zone my client was in, sometimes it was Eastern time, sometimes it was Pacific time, sometimes it was Central time. So that was the only adjustment I had to make. But other than that, for me, it was quite normal. But I can understand where other people were coming from. If you're not used to it working from home, you don't have your routine. I every morning what I do is I meditate, I work out, I journal, and then I go to work, and then I sit at work, I take my breaks, but I don't let others interrupt me. So it's not like I do something here, I do something there. No, when I'm working, I'm dedicated to work, and I have my routine. And that's so important, especially in times like this, in order to get through the day and stay happy.
Yeah, definitely. I myself, similar to you, I've been working from home for 8 years, so I was used to, the routine, if you like. I used to just go out to real world networking events a few times and then do my meetings around those. So now I just do online networking events and do my meetings online. So that's the only thing that's really changed. I've gone from doing two networking events per week to doing about, between six and eight a week online, and so I can get more done. And then I was having the problem of if I'm doing all these events, I don't have the actual time to follow up with everybody, which is why I decided to combine my follow up meeting with podcasting and YouTubing, because then I'm content creating at the same time. So I'm creating, so I'm making more out of the use of the time, which then means I've got more time to actually do those events and all those follow ups. So that's how it's worked for me. But it looks like we're both sort of similar, really used to working online and all of that. I was getting a lot of my business through the real world networking events as well. So obviously that's changed now and it's mostly online. But other than that, that's the real sort of difference. So tell us a little bit about your background, how it is that you ended up being self-employed and going into what you're doing and all of that.
Well, I started as a radio host. Like everyone in the radio, they start as an intern. And that was a few years, like few decades ago. And I was an editor, and I was also at different radio stations. I mainly presented the news because there were not enough women doing this, and everyone wants to become a show host, but rarely people want to really look into politics and understand politics and be able to talk about that. However, I really liked it. I really liked the news. But there was a time when I needed a new challenge because I realized that we didn't have enough time to do proper research anymore. So we had to rely on what we found in the newspaper, especially in the morning. You know, when you do the morning shows, you can't really call anyone at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't feel comfortable anymore. So I thought, okay, it has been enough is enough. And then 10 years ago, I quit my job and I became a freelancer. And then I started my little PR firm, and I've had different clients. Every story is amazing. I basically help people to get their message heard and to learn how to tell their story so that the news media or the networks hear it. Because sometimes it's not even the best way to approach a news media immediately. Sometimes it's better to go through a network. I know a lot of people thrive to, yeah, I want to be on the news, but it's the same like doing a Facebook ad, right? If you go to a Facebook marketer and say, I want to have an ad, and they say, okay, what's your target group? No, I want to show to everyone. But not everyone will come back as a lead. So you're spending money, sometimes a lot of money, on an ad that goes nowhere. Maybe 1 million people see it, but who's going to come back and buy? That's why you really want to target. Same with the news media. If you go to the Times, they might not going to pick up on it. But if you go to a local newspaper or maybe a magazine that is specialized on that topic, it converts even better. And there are a lot of agencies as well that say, oh, or that promise, yeah, we're going to get you into 400 news media outlets. And they're not lying because they have stats that show you they are not lying. But if you send an email to info@bbc.co.uk, it's going to go into the huge pile of emails and no one's going to ever read it. So that's why you need to be strategic in how you want to get your story in front of an editor. And that takes a lot of research.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, so you're literally helping people to get their story into the mainstream media or the niche mainstream media, if
Mm-hmm.
you like. Yeah. Yeah, because I do something similar, if you like. I get people to tell their story through more social media and blogs and obviously now podcasts and YouTube channels and whatever. But yeah, that more which those two worlds have sort of banged together, in probably the last 5 years, especially like maybe 5 to 10. But yeah, those sort of the gaps and the lines between traditional media and social media and whatever is all blurring now, and it's all morphing into each other, isn't it? It's just multimedia now. It's you get the story out, you put it places, and it goes wherever it goes. It can go viral, and depending on how popular the story is and how time relevant it is, and all those sort of things.
Yeah, and another thing, especially during the lockdown, that I discovered is I love to network. I love to place clients and people I network with in other podcasts and help the podcasters to go on different podcasts as well. Because I just, and this is my why. My why is to see the smile on everyone's face when they say, okay, now I'm here, and it was worth all the work, all the sleepless nights, and all the gray hairs, you may say, to get through this in order to get to this point. And sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you hear a no and they have a different no. I had one client who actually found his father's artwork in the attic, and after his father died, and his father painted the only existing version of the Bible that has no words but images. He hand painted those images for 16 years and has 3,333 images. And in the beginning I was like, what? No, why? And once they realized how huge that thing is and how amazing it is, because words kind of they are limiting us, right? But if you see a picture, you can interpret it as you like. And we had people from different countries looking at it. We had people from different religions looking at it and starting a conversation. It was amazing. And it was not just about the Bible, it was also about the art. And then there was another client. He was super happy. He was under the best 50th hairdresser in Germany, and he didn't know how to get his story out, because it is an amazing accomplishment. And so we contacted several media, and he not only landed a story in the local news media, but also in a very popular magazine. So, and then, you know, having them say, yes, Diana, we made it. It's just so amazing. It just, that's my why.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. Similar to me, I actually discovered my why during the lockdown period after going on a podcast, which was called the Fire in the Belly podcast. And I was on there for about 2 hours. We went through like a life story. A friend of mine runs the podcast. He takes people through their life story, because everyone's got a story in them, even if it's just their life story. Everyone's life is unique and different, and has highlight bits, if you like, where they're more of interest to other people, if you like. But I actually went through, you know, sort of my why and why I do things, and I love helping people. And that is my why. I just like to help people. But I thought I loved helping entrepreneurs and wanted them to become successful, you know, in their business and in their life, which is why I help people with things like networking and sales and marketing and social media and all these things that entrepreneurs need help with. But what I realized is I just like helping anybody. So actually I help anyone in any situation I can. I'm a detailed person, so I like to learn the 10 and 20 and 30% that other people don't learn about things. And then also, I'm massively into technology, and so technology is there to help people. That's why it's been created, is to automate something or to make it easier, etc. And also, as well as being a detailed person, I'm a lifelong learner. So I learn a lot of skills that other people don't learn, because most people give up learning after they leave school. So what I realized is I got all of this knowledge, information, passion, energy to help people. So I understand exactly. I can see you light up when you talk about your why, because that's that's the passion and the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So why you wake up every day, and why you wake up every day buzzing and with that list of things you've got to keep doing, because you're working towards that destination, and you know you're only part way there, and you've got to keep working and getting further and further down the path, if you like. And I wake up every day exactly the same. You know, how can I help people today? How can I get to the end goal when I know I'm going to be able to help so many people? You know, that's why I want to become a global speaker, because then people will come to me with their problems, and I'll be able to help them, rather than me at the moment got to go and find them. You know, find them, then find their problem, then help them. They'll come to me with their problems, and I'll just help them. And I'll have a load of online content and you know, everything else to actually help them without having to be the bung in the system of helping them.
And sometimes you talked about learning. Sometimes, I mean, if you're a doctor, right? Let's say you're a doctor, you don't sign up for social media, you don't sign up for your practice to be a brand, but times have changed. So now you have to do way more. But besides all the paperwork that you already have to do, that is already taking your time away from what you initially wanted to do, helping people, healing people. Now there comes this, and I love to help take that off of people and help them so they can concentrate on helping others. So by merging ecosystems, you basically can help even more people. Because maybe as one person, you might be able to help thousands, 10,000, millions. But when you are more people, when you're a whole group, merging the ecosystems, their skills and their knowledge, imagine how many people you can help.
Yeah, well, that's what I always say to people is the successful people in the world that people see as the successful people in their niches and industries and sports fields and whatever. A lot of the time, it's not because they're the best at what they do. There's usually a load of other people who can do stuff the same as they can. But they're the ones who can market themselves the best and sell themselves the best as the best in that industry, or the best in that team or company or whatever. And so it's like there are some really well-known, say, DJs on the planet. yeah, some really well-known DJs, and people see they're the best. But I bet you there's equally as skillful DJs in bedrooms up and, down the country and around the world. It's just they can't market themselves, but they can play records and do the mixing and all the rest of it. And that's the same as like, doctors and surgeons. There'll be equally gifted surgeons who nobody have heard of as there are, the Beverly Hill top surgeons that everybody goes to. And the only difference between those two people is not their surgery ability a lot of the time. It's just that one has embraced sales and marketing in a much better way, or got a team of people to embrace the sales and marketing. Well, he carries on doing his surgery, but they've done that in a much better way than the surgery that, is probably very thorough and goes about things, like a perfectionist, but he just forgets to tell everyone about that.
Well, and because they're experts in their fields, and they need experts to help them to get the message out there.
Yeah.
Because they spend all the time on developing programs and thinking about how they can help others with their skills, and they just need some, just like CEOs have an assistant.
Yeah.
And they are supporting them so they can actually concentrate and focus on what they're an expert in.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have a particular sort of person, or particular type of client that likes you to work with them and spread their message?
Well, it's usually solopreneurs that approach me, that want their message out there, to get the message out there. They are from different directions, from coaches to philanthropists who find their father's artwork, to hairdressers, to other, like there's a bunch of people. And so it's quite different, which keeps the whole work interesting, because I learn a lot through writing about it. Or one time I wrote a copy for a wine merchant. I learned so much about wine. It was amazing. I didn't know all of this. So that means I'm constantly learning as well. And I always say, like, if you don't know it, just Google it. There's nothing you cannot find. And based on my journalism background, I'm very proficient in it. And I think there was just one thing. I rarely do not find things. There was one thing from IKEA. I only had a picture and I couldn't find the name of that cupboard that was from the 90s. So that was the only one. But other than that, there's so many things. And sometimes people like ask me, how do you do that? I said, it's just, you just do it. You just go in there, spend time in there. And sometimes you can't, it's hard to explain. It's a skill that you develop at one point.
I've been asking Jeeves, so before Google, I was asking Jeeves, and like people ring me up sometimes. They say, "Oh, Mike, how do you do this?" And I'm just like, haven't you like discovered Google? Haven't you discovered like the fact that if you search Google, there'll either be a list of videos you can watch or a list of like articles you can read, like step-by-step guides. Haven't you discovered that yet? Because I've been using that for like 20 years or something, like, just literally everything I wanted to learn, even things like how do you like make an omelette or anything. I just use Google for anything, So I'm amazed when people just ask me random questions that I just think, like, why the hell have you wasted my time and your time speaking to me when you could have just whacked it in Google and done it by now?
But then again, it's you have to outsource. If you don't have the time, ask someone who can do it faster, instead of spending hours and hours not getting a result. I always recommend just ask the person who can do it, who gets you result in a short amount of time, and the actual results that you need, so that you don't have to spend hours going through the several pages and not being able to find anything.
Yeah,
but that's quite frustrating.
Yeah, as somebody who works with entrepreneurs as well, I always try and say, well, you should Google it first of all, work out whether you can do it. If you can't do it, work out, okay, what it is you need doing and who you're going to go to do it. Because, when I think there's a lot of business people, they outsource stuff to other people and they don't know what they're outsourcing, and therefore they don't know what they're measuring and whether they're getting a good service or anything. And so sometimes they get taken for a ride. So yeah, that's what I always say, like, learn enough about something to know whether you can do it or not. And if you know you can't do it, then at least you know what it is you want of somebody else and what you can't do. So you can at least measure whether they're doing it for you or not. Especially in the area of things like SEO and things that are a little bit complicated and technical that a lot of people don't understand, because I've heard nightmare stories where people have been paying hundreds of pounds to get to the top of the search engines for years. But, it really doesn't take that long, like, really. So they're just paying because they don't know better. They don't know what the service is.
Yeah, I agree. There are some bad apples out there, but that's why to me it's very important to have integrity.
Yeah.
That's very, very important, because there are some people out there that especially when you go on Instagram, all those influencers, they say, oh, I'm living the great life, and sometimes it's not. But integrity is very important in this job, and I think that's also my journalism background. I know journalists have a bad reputation now, but if you really stick to it, you should have integrity, and you should be honest with your clients. And even if something is not working, just tell them, hey, I don't think that this might be the way, but that could be the way. It's also important, let's say someone has an idea and would like to have someone else to endorse that product, to look into that other person, say, is it really the right fit? Or is there something about that person that you do not want to be connected with, or that influencer, right? Does that influencer really stand for your product? Is it going to look authentic or not? That's very important, but that's something people don't think about.
No, exactly. Yeah, you gotta. I believe in business, when you work with other people, you should work with people who share the same sort of mission, vision, and values, if you like. The same. So that then that you're all pulling in the same direction, and you're not going to disagree. I think that's why a lot of business partnerships break down, is because, again, similar to marriages, I suppose, a lot of people go into them with different visions and values and stuff, and it's only sometimes when something big happens then that they realize that actually they want to go about dealing with that situation in a different way, and they're not sort of in synergy or symmetrical anymore, and they're pulling apart, and that's what can cause problems and destroy marriages and partnerships and businesses and all sorts.
But this is where we kind of come back to the network, because if you have a good network and you have the support, you have people who can tell you, hey, you know what, I've worked with this person is really good, I can recommend this person, or I can recommend that person. That is why it's really, really imperative to have a good network and to keep on networking, because proximity is power. And when you have the right people on hand, and when you have the right state, of course, you really need to want it. If you really want it, things become true. So it's just like that. I never and things weren't even always cotton candy for me. There was a time when I lost everything. That was about 6 years ago now. And I ended up living on my friend's couch. And I made it. I did not give up. Yes, I cried. Yes, I was mad. And yes, I had my short victim state. But then I brushed my shoulders off. I got back up. And a year later, I was fine. I started traveling. I started living in different countries. Then I decided to work remotely and not to be, bound to one place. And it has been an amazing ride.
Yeah, good. Yeah, most people have been through those, down times, if you like. Mine was come not long after the global credit crunch, and a divorce with my ex-wife. So, you know, we all have those times, don't we? And I think it's the strong that do survive, you know, the weak give up and stop chasing their dreams and go back to the spin cycle or the rat race or the living life based on someone else's terms rather than their own. But the strong and the ones who are determined and the ones who've got that big goal, that big dream to pull them through, if you like, they come out the other end of those downturns, usually a bit wiser, usually a bit fiercer, usually a bit stubborner, usually a bit more persistent, and all the better for it, if you like. You know, sometimes you've got to have come through the storm in order to have been a bit sort of weathered and made strong again, like, you know.
Definitely, definitely. And it is like what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
Yeah,
and I believe there's always a good and like a happy ending. Otherwise it's not the end. There's always a way, and a no doesn't mean a no. And some people say failure is no option. I think failure is an option, because if there weren't failures, you wouldn't know in which direction you're supposed to go. A failure is a dead end, which means you turn around and go a different way. Failure is not the end. It's just one end of many, and then you just go a different direction, and eventually you're going to end up meeting your goal.
Yeah, well, I actually say there's no such thing as failure, only lessons. Except if you don't learn the lesson and you make the same mistake again, then that's a failure, because it's a failure to learn. But yeah, ultimately, you know, what most people consider as failures anyway is just because they didn't know any better. So it is a lesson. You know what I mean? They failed at something because they didn't learn what they needed to do. So you didn't fail, you just failed to succeed. You know, there's a difference. You know what I mean? I think it's a bit like this crisis. You know, lots of people who see this pandemic as a crisis will do nothing. They'll put their head in the sand. They'll cry, and they'll achieve nothing. But most people that I've spoken to, entrepreneurs with a positive mindset, they see every crisis as not a crisis but an opportunity. Okay, there's a reset button going on. There's a change going on. The stability of the world is becoming, you know, it's storming, if you like. There's lots of things going on, and how can I get a bigger part of the world as it settles again? You know, what can I do to transition in this period? You know, most entrepreneurs have been through these things before. You know, global recessions, global credit crunches, pandemics, whatever. We've all been through these things, and what they've realised is actually, if you go out and you attack, and you don't just wilt, if you like, and crumble, if you go on the attack, you can actually come out of the other side of these events a lot better, a lot stronger. You could have grown through the process, like, you know.
Absolutely. And a lot of small business owners have started their business during the lockdown because they now had time. And before that, they always had the excuse, I didn't have time. And now they're thriving. They can't believe that now everything is paying off. And the same with events or meetings. Like, you can have meetings online, yoga instructor, you can have Zoom calls or take a different platform and do that. I was attending different networking events, just like you. Like, I almost had no more time because I was attending so many networking events. There is one by Mark Siegel. He has a small business owner networking event in the US. And it just has been amazing. And even if you didn't get a lead, you still have a positive peer group. You have people around you who think the same, who have the same attitude. And maybe if you don't see a way, they do see a way, and you can brainstorm. And then you get your result. And then you say, oh my gosh, it was right there in front of me. I just didn't see it. But thank you for changing my direction, you know, to look at it differently.
Yeah, I'm interested in joining an American network, so perhaps you can send me a link or whatever to the one that you join. Because yeah, you know, I connect and network with a lot of Americans, and I actually think I've got a future in America as a speaker and stuff, because I think American people, they like Brits, and they like salespeople a bit more than I'm quite American in my mindset rather than British. British like to support the underdogs a lot more, whereas I like to just win. Total annihilation, just win. I love winning, and that's more an American trait, I think. American treats itself as a confident country that can, dominate on the global basis and stuff. And I think Britain used to be a bit more like that, but I don't know. There's a lot of British people now who, like I say, happy to be the underdog, or to be giving it a good effort. To me, it's not. Yeah, giving it a good effort is the start, but then it's actually achieving something with that effort and actually getting an end product or something, and being happy that you're getting it and being confident in your ability and your approach and stuff. And I think that's why, like for example, I want to become a global speaker because like all the global speakers I know, they're all American. They're not European, they're not British, and I just think, well, that shouldn't be right.
Yeah. And I'm happy to connect you with plenty. There's so many that I would love to connect you with, because I think you can benefit from each other so well. On the top of my head, there's Mark Siegel. He was a stock market trader, and then he became a fitness coach because he thought, no, that's not what I want to do. He became a fitness coach. He helped so many people losing weight, but then he wanted to do more. All he has built a CBD company, and his CBD is amazing. Unfortunately, I can't ship it to Germany. We have all those rules and regulations. And there's another one, Victoria Dio. She's an amazing spiritual life coach. And I call her the queen of manifestation. I'm telling you, if I hadn't witnessed it, I wouldn't have believed it. This woman can manifest anything. It's amazing. She's actually British. Okay. And then there's King Raf.
I got two contacts which should speak to them. One who's a spiritual healer and she deals with negative thoughts and stuff, who I should introduce you to. She's from my Irish network, Ashley. And also another contact of mine, friend of mine from the Irish network as well, Karen Fleming, sells CBD products, etc. So those two that you said straight away, I could introduce them to people as well. After you introduce them to me, I could introduce them to someone else they should be dealing with. And then what's this other one? King Ralph?
King Ralph, yeah. He's an amazing soul. He's such an amazing soul. Like, he contributes and helps people, and also has a lot of wisdom. He's also a very successful entrepreneur. He imports perfume and he sells perfumes, and he's very successful with that. And then there's a gentleman, Dave Steele, the blind poet. He's legally blind, and he's actually from the UK as well. So there are so many exciting people that I've met, not just during the networking, but also the time prior that I attended different events. It has been just amazing. That's what for example, the Unblinded movement calls merging ecosystems. Yeah. And you just have different groups that come together and just build something great. And so many great things have come out of that. There's for example, Vivian Guzman, she has a show, Dishing It, where she cooks and she talks with people about it. Or Jennifer Dalton, who calls herself Jenny from the chopping block, and she has started podcasts as well, and she has been, Jay Shetty called her out, and Gary Vee, and she's just an amazing soul, and all this energy those people have, and the positive vibes, and the amazing things that they do. It's just wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I've got a contact again from the Irish group, the Blind Podcast is called. Aaron. I was thinking Brian then, but I was thinking it's not Brian. Aaron O'Dowd. He's been on my podcast twice. I've been on his once, I think. He is a blind podcaster, but he's also used to be a rower for quite high level rowing, and now he's doing triathlon. But he used to have a show called the Brian O'Dowd Show. but he's just pivoting that a bit to partially sighted. I think his show's going to be. He's launching it up new, and he wants to help people with disabilities, etc., similar to him, to become high achievers in life, like he is. So he's going to mentor them and all that sort of thing as well. So that would be a great contact for your contact. And also, you're talking about the power of, networks joining forces with other networks. Obviously, I've got a big network which I can link with yours, but I've just linked in as well with another guy called Mark Jarrett from the Southeast, and he's called Virtual Power Networking. He's got a website, Virtual Power Networking. He's got 130 WhatsApp groups, of niches. Yeah, so he's got big ones like VPN, I think, VPN, which is like a pub where people can go and relax and stuff, and everyone's in it. And then he's got groups for things like, YouTubers, Instagrammers, Facebookers, LinkedIners, etc. And then he's got like biotech, fintech, gold, property developers, pretty much every niche, and then he's got some of the smaller niches, which only got 4, 5, 6, 7 people in. It's like a meeting of minds. You get like 7 people from the biotech industry into one group, and magic happens. So he's got 130 of them as well. So I've joined about 50 of them, out of his 130, and it's keeping me busy. But there's some fantastic networking going on, and that's people around the world, So he used to help businesses in the UK relocate or open up in Germany and America, because he's from Germany as well. But now he helps, he's networking around the world. I'm going to become his virtual power networker for Wales, because obviously he's in England. And I've given him a strategy which I'm going to help him work on, where he gets virtual power networkers from every region of the UK and then every region of the world, so that everyone can join together as power networkers, and not just do the, I know 20 people, you know 20 people, let's cross them over, but it'd be more like, I know 2,000 people and you know 2,000 people, and let's see how we can get these people working together, and what collaborations they can be doing and all that sort of thing,
That's amazing. I just love that.
Yeah.
That's really great.
So that's what we're doing. And I've been part of a LinkedIn pod for a while, for about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. And I've just created 3 more LinkedIn pods with 3 different networks that I belong to. So I'm going to be part of 4 LinkedIn pods now. And what happens with your LinkedIn pods, don't know if you know this or not, but if you get people to like and comment on your LinkedIn post within the first hour, it goes viral. So it goes to about 10 times as many people. So I'm going to be posting. The idea of a pod is to post at a certain time of day and get everyone to post the same time, and then we create a WhatsApp group. They grab the link for the post, stick it in the WhatsApp group. So you can just go through clicking on all the links then, and liking and commenting, and so you can easily get 10 people to do that in an hour. So everyone's posts go far. But obviously with my pods, I got one at 2 o'clock and one at 9 o'clock. I'm going to probably set up the other one to be 7 o'clock. And I don't know what other time I do, but so most people can only commit to say 1 a day, and not everyone can commit to that. But I always say, if you post, then like and comment on everyone else's, and if you don't post because you can't make it, well then just have a day off, sort of thing, But I'm going to be trying to do 4 a day, trying to commit to 4 every day, and then like and comment on the other 10 or the other however many. So it gets quite a job, just like keeping up to date. Like Mark manages these 130 WhatsApp groups. Keeping up to date with all of that can get difficult. But I've got to keep up to date with the 50 groups I'm in, the 4 LinkedIn pods, my daily podcasts and YouTubes, plus then Facebook and Twitter and all Instagram and all those other things as well. So that's why I say, like, I can clone 5 of me quite easily, because then at least I can stick 1 on full-time LinkedIn, 1 on full-time WhatsApp, 1 full-time podcasting, 1 full-time, on the other socials, and 1 full-time networking, and then I could just sit on a beach.
Yeah. Well, the day doesn't have enough hours for you. That definitely sounds like that's amazing, and I think it's amazing that everyone is supporting each other that way.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I loved about the lockdown as well. like you were saying, your routine hasn't changed. Mine hasn't changed either much. It's just got better. I've just been able to be more efficient, and it's got better. But something else which has made it better as well is everyone else has joined our timeline. Yeah. So
Mhm.
like I was working all the hours under the sun because I work and I don't work when I want to. Yeah. Or I'm doing the things I want to do when I'm working. So therefore I'll do them all day, every day. It doesn't bother me. I do, my Monday to Sunday is pretty much the same because in my daily schedule is doing things I like to do, which also help my performance. Things like going out on my bike, going for a run, having a bit of time out for some meditation or contemplation. I build those things in reading an educational book or listening to an audio book. I do those things every day. So they're the things I'd be doing if I wasn't working anyway. So, you know what I mean? They're the things I like to
Mhm.
do. So they're my hobbies, my interests, my pastimes. So I think if you can combine your hobbies, your interests, your pastimes in with your work and your employed state and your earning, then you're never really working. You're only just doing what you enjoy doing, and that's what can keep you doing it. All the hours under the sun, and still be
Yeah.
happy and not having burnout.
Yeah. And you just have to find what you're passionate about, become an expert in it, learn from the others that are doing the same, and then find out what you can make better. And then you can make it a business.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like that.
Yeah, everyone's got, some people have passions that they can't really monetize, but most hobbies, interests, passions can be monetized. Most can, so, you just got to find whichever passion or interest or hobby you have that you really do love. Watch somebody who's already mastered making a good income out of it and do what they do.
And it's not only that, it's like my main goal is to help people. So and sometimes they just need that little help. I don't want to say help, I want to say support, because they're not helpless. They
Yeah,
know exactly what they're doing, but they need some support in other areas where there are no experts in.
yeah,
And sometimes it's just so obvious. Like, remember when the suitcases didn't have wheels, and then there was the suitcase with
yeah,
2 wheels? I
yeah,
always ask myself, when there was suddenly the ones with 4 wheels, why didn't that person come up with that idea in the first place? But
yeah.
someone else did. They took the product, thought about how can we improve it, and just added 2 more wheels, and that's it.
Yeah, somebody's just done it now with coffee bags.
Coffee
Like
banks.
there's been tea bags for a long time, but no, not coffee bags. There was this coffee in a jar, but some I've seen on the telly now, and you just think, yeah, why did it take so long for someone to just stick coffee in a bag?
Yeah, yeah.
Because they've been doing it with tea for a long time, but you have so they don't put tea in a jar and you serve it like coffee, So, but sometimes you think that, yeah, why, like why did somebody invent a really heavy case and not put wheels on it in the first place?
Well,
But
because sometimes you just have to learn from the experience. You see
yeah,
something, you think about how can I improve it, and there you go.
yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes you're so focused on one thing, you can't look beyond that, sometimes as well. So it takes somebody else with an overview to see what you couldn't see. They got a bigger
And that's where the
perspective.
network, yeah, and that's where the network comes in, to
Yeah.
brainstorm. It's important to brainstorm, speak out loudly what you're thinking, and what you're thinking about, what your plans are, what your ideas are, and get the feedback from others. And criticism is actually really, really good, as long as it's constructive.
Yeah.
Just saying that's, I don't like that, or that's not good, doesn't help anyone. But if you tell them why, and why that is not helpful to them, um, that actually is something really good, because then you can work on it. I always say, if one person comes forward and says, I don't like it because of this and this and this, that is one of many, because this is the only one that came forward. So
Yeah.
I would take them seriously and see, okay, how can I implement their ideas? Of course, you can't make everyone happy all the time. That's just impossible. Well, maybe not, but it's very hard to do. And but you can take it into consideration and see, okay, does it work, does it not work, what is the outcome, and just go from there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's one of my networking tips, actually. Yeah, I'm doing an A to Z of networking series at the moment, and I think one of my tips is I think a lot of people go to networking with just selling in mind, and I just want to sell, sell, sell. They forget about the relationship building and actually just building up contacts, etc. But they also forget about the massive learning that can be done. There's so much information that can be gathered off a room full of your peers. People who are going through similar situations, but in different sectors and different industries and at different timelines. Some have been a bit further ahead, some are a bit further behind. There's so much information, and people are like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to pay that networking fee or that money or whatever, because I may not get that money back in sales or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, but you've not really understood what other value you can get. There's so much value that you can get from meeting like-minded people, like, you know what I mean? And actually friendship is one of the big byproducts as well of networking, is that, when you meet like-minded people who are on the same mission, the same path, etc., great friendships are forged through that type of interactivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not as quick to say no to things or to ideas. They might say, maybe not this way, but maybe another way. Whereas a lot of times when people have ideas, they run into others. They say, why are you doing that? Why are you wasting your time? That's not supportive. That is not supportive at all. It takes people to brainstorm with you, to try to understand where you want to go. And also, you need feedback, but feedback that's building you up, or like that's getting you somewhere.
Yeah, it's like asking somebody who likes to go for a walk, how to run a marathon. They don't run, they walk. It's just like, so business people asking non-business people sometimes, what are your opinions of this? But it's like, well, they're not business people. So, first of all, they don't think like you do, because they'd have been business people as well otherwise if they thought like you do. So sometimes you come up with a solution, because you see a gap in a market or something, but they haven't seen the same gap in the market, or they haven't seen the same problem for the solution. So sometimes you've got to be careful who you ask for advice as well, and try and pick, the people who are going to at least consider the same problem and solution that you're trying to solve with your offering, if you like, rather than people who are just going to go, oh, I don't see the point of that. Some people will just say that, whatever it is.
Well, on the other hand, if someone looking at it with a fresh eye, for example, like when a client comes to me and says, oh, this is what I wanted to do, this is what I wanted to say, and I'm like, yeah, but your website doesn't really represent that. When I read it, or when I went through it, I thought, you mean this, but you actually mean that. Because they're experts and they're so focused, they sometimes forget how to explain it in a very easy way so that everyone can understand it. And that's why you need someone with a fresh eye who actually looks at things and evaluates things. It's like, okay, so I have a question. Why is this and why is that? That's very important.
Yeah.
So that you can tweak a little bit here and tweak a little bit there. Because if you're an expert, like, others won't understand you. But if you want to sell a service and a product to people, your customers or clients are not always people who are experts as well.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's where a lot of people have errors on their websites, where they talk, in expert language or in expert jargon, or abbreviations or things that they just assume other people know, but they haven't realized that they don't know. They don't know what those things mean, and therefore you've got to break it down a bit. Yeah, so that communication and language is very key. Especially in marketing terms, to make sure you've got the right language for the audience that you're targeting. So I'm conscious now that we're coming up to the hour mark, I think.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I'm gonna leave it there, I think, because I think we could probably just keep talking all day, because there's lots of useful information coming out and lots of topics covered.
Definitely.
And I skipped by my sort of 3, 4, 5 questions. I don't know which ones I asked and which ones I didn't, because we just had a conversation, and that's my preferred. Episodes, really, is when we just have a two-way conversation, and it goes wherever it goes.
Well, it has been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show, and I love the conversation as well. It was just Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, great. That's why I have 5 planned questions, but I quite often, like I say, if the conversation just goes, I just let the conversation goes where it goes. But those 5 are very loose, open questions anyway, which means the conversation can go in lots of different directions anyway, because I'm a salesperson anyway, so I've learned how to ask open questions to go
Hmm.
down the paths you want to go down. But I've also learned, sometimes just to go with the conversation and see what comes out, because sometimes what you want to talk about isn't the thing that the other person might want to talk about, and if you give them the opportunity to open up, the direction goes wherever it goes. And I think I enjoyed our conversation. I think
Me
if
too.
we met in the real world networking, it would have been a similar sort of conversation, just a chat between 2 people getting to know each other, and what their thoughts are, on the world, and stuff. And I think we're in similar spaces. We both communicate for a living on behalf of other people. I do mine in a bit more of a non-journalistic marketing way, and you do yours in a bit more of a sort of formalistic, sort of journalistic way, So I think we do very similar things, and we probably think quite similar, and that's why the conversation's good and interesting, and we could probably spend, like I say, the rest of the day having a conversation, and it probably wouldn't run out. I know I can. I could talk for Wales. But yeah, it's been great. So thanks very much for coming on the podcast,
Thank
and
you too.
and offering such great insights. And yeah, I look forward to the next time, because there will be a next time, and I like to keep building on the relationship and stuff. And I also like to deep dive on a particular area. So if you get a particular area that you want a deep dive on, a particular subject matter that is hot at that time or whatever, and feel free to let me know. And when I'm running out
Always.
of first time visits, and I'm willing to get into some second time ones, I'll be in touch with you.
That would be amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, brilliant. And I look forward to some of those connections that you said you'd give to me, and I'll dig up a few for you as well. And I'm always willing to speak with and chat with any of your networking connections, and especially from the entrepreneurial sort of podcasting, coaching sort of side of things, because I'd love to get them on my podcast, and so they can share their stories.
Wonderful. Well, and we'll get right to it once we finish this podcast.
Brilliant. All right then. Well, you have a great day, and
Thank you. You too.
I'll see you again soon.
Okay. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
And that was another fantastic entrepreneurs chat session. So there's nothing else left for me to say now, other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Just one more thing as well. You can do it. Just remember that. You can do it. And if you want to get in touch with me because you're interested in coming on my podcast show and on my YouTube channel, visit mikearmstrong.me and get in touch via any of the contact information, or connect with me on any social media. If you search Mike Armstrong in Google or hashtag Mike Armstrong on any socials, you should find me. Cheers. Thanks. Bye bye.